The highway stretched endlessly through the darkness, a ribbon of asphalt cutting through the desolate countryside. It was the kind of road where nothing seemed to exist beyond the headlights' reach. No towns, no streetlights, and no signs of life. Just an endless void of night. Ethan gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white as he fought off exhaustion. He'd been driving for hours, trying to make it home in time for his sister's wedding. The GPS had promised a quicker route if he took this lonely highway, but now he wasn't so sure. The monotonous hum of the engine and the empty road ahead were beginning to mess with his mind. The first sign of something being off came when his radio crackled to life. He hadn't touched it, and there was no reception this far out. The static hissed and popped before a faint, distorted voice cut through. "Help, highway!" Ethan frowned and turned the dial, but the voice vanished as quickly as it had appeared. A chill ran down his spine, but he told himself it was just interference. Maybe some trucker messing around with CB frequencies, he muttered. Miles passed in silence. The unease settled over him like a heavy blanket. Then he saw her. A figure stood on the side of the road, illuminated by his high beams. She was a young woman, dressed in a white blouse and jeans, her long hair matted as if she'd been caught in the rain. She held her hand out in a pleading gesture. Ethan slowed the car but didn't stop. His mother's voice echoed in his head. "Don't pick up hitchhikers. You never know who they really are." Yet, as he passed her, something about her expression, desperation mixed with fear, clawed at his conscience. He pulled over a few yards ahead, the car idling. She ran up to his window, her movements frantic. "Please," she said, her voice trembling. "I need help. There's something out here." Ethan hesitated. She looked genuinely terrified, her face pale and her eyes darting nervously toward the darkness beyond the road. Against his better judgment, he unlocked the passenger door. "Get in," he said. The woman climbed in quickly, slamming the door behind her. "Thank you," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder as if something might be following her. "What's going on?" Ethan asked, pulling back onto the highway. She shook her head, her hands trembling in her lap. "I don't know. I was driving, and something ran me off the road. My car's back there, but I didn't want to stay." Ethan glanced at her, his brow furrowed. "Something? Like an animal?" No, her voice was sharp, urgent. "It wasn't an animal. It was, I don't know what it was, but it wasn't human." The words hung heavy in the air. Ethan didn't press her for details, but he couldn't ignore the goosebumps prickling his skin. He focused on the road ahead, driving faster than he should. The darkness outside the car seemed thicker now, almost alive. "Do you think we're safe?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Before Ethan could respond, the car shuddered violently, like something heavy had struck it from behind. He swerved, his heart racing, but managed to keep the vehicle on the road. "What the hell was that?" he yelled, checking the rearview mirror. "Nothing. Just the empty highway." "It's here," the woman said, her voice cracking. "It followed me." Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. "What's here?" A loud screech echoed through the night, a sound like metal being torn apart. The car jolted again, and this time, Ethan saw it. A shadowy figure darting across the road in his headlights. It was fast, too fast to be human, and its form was indistinct, more like a shifting mass of darkness than a solid being. He pressed the gas pedal to the floor, the engine roaring as the car sped down the highway. The woman clutched the armrest, her eyes wide with terror. "It won't let us go," she cried. The thing appeared again, this time on the side of the road. Ethan caught a glimpse of glowing red eyes before it vanished into the dark. The screeching sound returned, louder and closer, as if it were coming from inside the car. Ethan swerved wildly, adrenaline coursing through him. "What the hell is that thing?" he shouted. The woman didn't answer. Her gaze was fixed ahead, her face pale. "It wants us to crash," she said. "That's how it gets you." As if on cue, the car's headlights flickered, plunging them into near darkness. The dashboard lights dimmed, and the engine sputtered. Ethan gritted his teeth, gripping the wheel tighter. "Not now," he muttered. "Come on, come on." The headlights surged back to life, illuminating the road ahead. For a brief moment, Ethan felt a flicker of hope, until he saw it. The figure stood directly in their path, its shape barely humanoid, its glowing eyes locked on them. Ethan had no time to react. He swerved, the car careening off the road and into the ditch. The world spun in a blur of motion, the sound of shattering glass and crunching metal filling the air. When the car finally came to a stop, Ethan's head was spinning, and the woman beside him was slumped in her seat. He groaned, his body aching, and turned to check on her. "Hey, are you okay?" She didn't respond. Her head lolled to the side, and in the dim light, Ethan saw something that made his blood run cold. Her seat was empty. Heart pounding, he stumbled out of the wrecked car, the cold night air biting at his skin. He called out, his voice echoing into the void. "Hello? Where are you?" The only answer was silence. Then, in the distance, he saw her, standing on the side of the road, her hand outstretched, just as she had been when he first saw her. A chilling realization washed over him. The screeching sound returned, louder than ever, and from the corner of his eye, he saw the shadowy figure rushing toward him. It was too late to run. The last thing Ethan saw was the woman's pale face, watching him with an expression of sorrow, as the darkness consumed him.